big sky, big potential. In association with Mills and Reeve, this is Eastern Promise. Achieving more together. Welcome to the podcast that's the East of England shop window in sound. Every episode is a taste of our region at its best, bursting with the unique flavours of the East of England, for this is Eastern Promise. I'm Mike Rigby, and this week we're the guests of the Bennett School for Public Policy at the University of Cambridge. We're discussing their recent report into the skills mismatch in East Anglia between the high level of skilled vacancies and the lack of high-quality pathways into skilled employment. We've assembled a peerless panel and will be guided through the report's recommendations by one of its authors. Plus, giving us his Eastern insight on skills is stalwart of the East of England's hospitality scene, Jez Cheetle. This episode is about one of the biggest challenges to growth in the East of England today: skills. I'm at the University of Cambridge's Bennett School of Public Policy with a region-wide panel of experts from education, business and industry. We're unpacking the Bennett School's recent report that asks a vital question. In a region with high employment, why do so many employers still struggle to find the skilled workers they need, while so many young people can't find a clear pathway into a good job? In this conversation, we go beyond the headlines to explore why skills policy can't be separated from transport, housing and access, how SMEs can engage with the system, and what it really takes to build pathways into work beyond just qualifications. Because this isn't just about training. It's about creating clearer routes into good work across the East of England. So, let's get into it.
Hello, my name's Gwen Bergius. I'm Head of Business Development for Form the Future. We are a CIC based in Cambridge but operating across East Anglia, trying to really bridge that gap between education and employment and support young people to feel confident in taking their next best steps.
Next, we've got a returning guest. Welcome. I'll let you do the honours, Charlotte.
Mike, thank you. It's great to be back. I'm Charlotte Horobin, the Chief Executive of the Cambridgeshire Chamber of Commerce. We're very proud to be the employer representative body across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, working in joint partnership with the Combined Authority to deliver the local skills improvement plan. And with that, I then wear another hat of chairing the skills board across the Combined Authority area. So, kept busy.
So, hello, my name's Suzanne Allen. I work for East of England Energy Group and call ourselves EAGER because it's a bit of a mouthful otherwise. My role is Skills for Energy Manager, which is broad, but essentially I work with connecting industry to people wanting to work in the industry, getting the message out of what's happening in the East of England, which there is just so much going on. It's really exciting, but not enough people know about it. And so we, as an organisation, support industry and those wanting to get into industry to start their careers.
A, that's why Eastern Promise is here, and we'll help wherever we can. But B, we were also lucky enough, I was also lucky enough to be at the House of Commons reception you held last week. Was it last week?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But, I mean, it doesn't matter, because when people listen to this, it could have been years ago. But recently, in our time, I was at the fantastic reception you held at the House of Commons, sponsored by Jess Asato, the MP for Lowestoft.
The best speakers were the young people that we had speaking there that were fantastic, and they giving their voice of how they got into it, their challenges, but also how industry and we have, and how their training providers have supported them. So it's really about sharing that with everybody so that everybody knows that there are those opportunities, and they are flying with it. They're excellent.
Thank you, Suzanne. And as I said, we're honoured to be guests of the Bennett School of Public Policy and representing SAME, and one of the authors of the report we're going to look at today. Burcu, please welcome to Eastern Promise, and do tell us something about yourself before I ask you to just outline the report for us.
Hello, and thank you for having me, Mike. I'm Burcu Sevde. I'm a research assistant at the Bennett School of Public Policy at the University of Cambridge. My research mainly focuses on labour economics and productivity. I look at the drivers of productivity across different sectors and regions of the UK economy, with a particular focus on East Anglia. When we talk about skills mismatch, we're really talking about the gap between skills people have and the skills employers need. That sounds simple, but in practice it shows up in many different forms, which can change across the economic cycle and can overlap. But if I still had to choose one main shift, it would be to stop treating skills as a separate policy agenda and start seeing it as a part of a joined-up pathway into good work. That means better coordination between education and skills policy, innovation policy, special policy, because young people's opportunities are shaped not only by training and qualifications, but also where jobs are, how employers engage with them, and whether people can actually access those opportunities. And I think the most important part is that we need to plan for that pathway over the long term, not through short cycles. It's one of the key findings of our report. When we were writing the report, one of the things became really clear was just how widespread this issue is. For example, across OECD countries, around 1 in 4 workers report some form of mismatch. We see this very clearly in the UK as well. About 1 in 3 graduates are still in non-graduate jobs 5 years after leaving university. And compared with other OECD economies, England has one of the highest rates of overqualification. But this is not just a graduate problem. Employers are also struggling to fill technical and mid-skilled roles in East Anglia. So we have two things happening side by side: people whose skills are not being fully used and employers who cannot find the skills they need. This raises an important productivity question for firms. If they cannot find the skills they need, they may struggle to grow, adopt new technologies, or invest. For individuals, skills mismatch can come with real costs. If someone is overqualified for their job, which we see in the UK, they may face lower wages over time, and it can affect job satisfaction and overall well-being. And if someone does not have the skills a role requires, it can make it harder to get a job or progress. So that's why for young people, getting that first step right into the labor market really matters. So to see a real progress, our work shows that we need much clearer routes from education into work. That means stronger level 3 to 5 pathways, better apprenticeship routes for young people under 19, more practical support from small and medium-sized businesses to engage, and career guidance that is sustained part of young people's education.
Right, I just wanted at that point, thank you, Burcu, to throw that across to Charlotte, just to reflect on what you've just heard and the report's conclusions for us there.
Yeah, a huge amount of the research absolutely resonates, especially making sure that skills isn't seen as an additional policy, but actually we need to make sure it's interwoven throughout everything. It should be a golden thread. I think institutions, organisations like university technical colleges are really great examples as to how this becomes successful, where you've got employer engagement consistently on a long-term basis, interwoven through a curriculum, throughout a young person's experiences, as opposed to ad hoc a week of work experience here, or somebody comes in to do a career talk here and there. So absolutely agree with the golden thread approach. We're certainly seeing through the work that we're doing, the backdrop is our employers are struggling with the cost of employment. The persistent price pressure that employers tell us is labour costs at the moment, and that of course then adds an additional challenge to our million young people across the country who are not in education, employment or training. So it's absolutely vital that we're there for, and our role is to make sure that our educators, our employers and local government all come together so that we understand the true need of what our employers are looking for, and that is things like communication is the most sought after skill. It's 5 times more sought after than the most specialised skill, and our message isn't that you just need people with good communication skills, but actually on the technical side we know that 5 out of our 6 growth sectors need mechanical engineering. So if we're able to use that really detailed view to ensure that our employers have got a pipeline of talent coming through our colleges, our universities, that our schools are equipped to inspire, then hopefully we're able to bridge that gap and find curriculum delivers opportunity locally.
Gwen, have you got some observations from the start?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, firstly, I'd say, this is a really fascinating bit of work, but ultimately, it's painting a picture that we in our work are already very aware of, that actually, it is not simply enough to accept that innovation is here and therefore people will find jobs and become part of it and be able to access it. We know that actually without intervention and without sort of systematized structure that creates those opportunities and pathways towards those opportunities, there is always going to be this disconnect between what is available and how people can access it.
Suzanne, from my knowledge and experience of EAGER, the East of England Energy Group, you have got a very strong aligned body of members, in a similar way to Charlotte, who know that the opportunities are there. It's just you seem to me to have the sort of twin challenges of making people aware of those opportunities and the geographic nature of those opportunities. For example, everyone in Norfolk will know of the Acle Strait, and everyone in Norfolk will know that there's only the train to Yarmouth and to Lowestoft are not all that frequent yet, he said. So just your reflections on the report and what you've heard so far would be really helpful. There's
so many things that you guys have all said that align exactly, and this report just backs up everything that we've found as well. We've got a fantastic network of members, and some of them realise that it's too much of a risk not to be taking people on. But there's some SMEs that struggle with the fact that they can't afford to do that. They don't have the promise of work, so there's that kind of mismatch again that ties in with all of this. That the risk of paying for somebody to be taken, a young person to be taken on as an employee, they don't have that promise of work because they don't know if the developers are actually going to go. There's this whole kind of cloak of kind of will they, won't they happen with projects. And once there's the go-ahead with the projects, then everyone's like, right, now we need to go. And it's like, actually, that's the horse is bolted already. I don't know a young person that I've spoken to, actually anybody of any age that wants to get into this industry that isn't really keen to do it, but there's barriers in the way, like transport. Geography in our region is just, it's really sprawling. So it'd be great if they could just have heavily subsidised bus passes and train passes. Just stop making it difficult for people. I think the whole process of people trying to get into work is archaic. The whole apply for, we have loads of companies going, I get loads of applications, and they don't meet them. Every time we've put, especially young people in front of industry, they've gone, oh, crikey, they're good, we'll take them on. With knowing that they don't have the experience yet, but like you've said, those softer skills, those communication skills, they've gone, well, they're decent, they look like they're going to be hard work, and they haven't seen their CV. They've just gone on the character and the spec. Absolutely, because they've shown, those people of all ages have shown willing to go, I'm keen, I'm here, and they've gone, brilliant, we can train you. There's this kind of idea that kind of like, when I get out of here, then I'll succeed. I'm like, oh my God, don't, because actually the companies, the industry that is in our region, you can work in our region and you can still travel the world. There's still all the plethora of opportunities to do those things, but there's the mindset that I'll leave here and then I'll be successful. I want to come to Gwen, because you've already mentioned this. How do you think, with your hat on at Form the Future, we need to adapt
how we approach skills policy and our efforts to better reflect that dual economy?
Well, I think the first thing really that you touched on there is, not running the risk of what you might call the sort of innovation halo effect, where actually the success that you see in some of our sectors in this region can mask some of those deeper disparities at a local community level. So I think that's the first key thing. And if I think about where we're based at Form the Future on King's Hedges in Cambridge, we can walk to Cambridge Science Park. That's how close we are to it. And, so can some local schools. I'm thinking of, maybe King's Hedges Primary or North Cambridge Academy. They are that close that they could walk to the science park. But how many of those young people at those two schools have been to the science park, have seen how it works and had experiences of the breadth of careers and opportunities that you talked about, Suzanne, that are right on their doorstep? And and the reality is that without intervention, that they may never get that opportunity to see that all that innovation and success is on their doorstep. So that's the first thing. And the other thing really is around absolutely being place sensitive and understanding that the East Anglia isn't one labour market, that actually young people who are in Fenland or Peterborough or Lowestoft are going to experience opportunities very differently from the young people in Cambridge, or they may well experience it differently. And as Charlotte and others touched on, those barriers aren't going to necessarily be around qualifications, they're going to be around confidence and social capital, and yes, transport and some of those more logistical issues around affordability perhaps. And it's really about trying to understand how we can create a much more systematised approach with early engagement, going in there, sparking curiosity, nurturing inspiration and aspiration in these young people so that they can understand what opportunity looks like for them where they live, in the locality where they are. And I think if you can do those things, then you're much more likely to create young people who feel confident that they have all the information about the options available to them locally so that they don't have to leave.
Burcu, could I ask you to just reflect very quickly on your findings about the disparate nature of the divided nature of East Anglia, please?
Like Gwen said, East Anglia is a region of real contrasts. So Cambridge is one of the most productive local economies in the country, while Norfolk and Suffolk are below 90% of the UK average for productivity. So there is a real challenge, and the key point is that East Anglia does have real economic opportunities. The region has strengths in innovation, clean energy, construction, digital, health and care, but those opportunities are not equally visible or easy to access for all young people. Some young people are close to strong employer networks and training routes, while others have fewer technical routes nearby, weaker links to employers, or less access to work experience and advice. So I think there are a few things that we need to change, maybe we can say that, and they're all connected. First, opportunities need to be easier and more inclusive to reach in practice, and we can include transport costs or, like I said, weaker local links to employers to this as well. Second, we need clearer career pathways. Young people need to have a clear sense of what their future could look like if they decide to go on a certain path. So in our report, we talk about the project like Sizewell C offers as a useful example of how major investment can link to local skills. So the important point is that it's not only about creating jobs, but about building the training routes, apprenticeships, opportunities, and outreach support to help local people access and benefit from bigger, stronger areas.
One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from Victoria Higgins. Hello, Victoria. You get a piece of paper and the first thing you do is write down what brings you joy. And from that, you start looking... I've enjoyed some of the jobs I've done over the years. I've hated others. And this is just basically what I do now is joy on a daily basis, and this is a perfect example of that joy.
Mike, I think your point of what brings you joy is a really important one, because we see this in schools, don't we? We talk about professions, doctor, lawyer, vet, particularly, especially in say, all-girl environments too. And we talk a lot about actually what is sick versus sock, so what are occupations versus your sectors. And I do sometimes see that we're really blinkered with, well, you know, what young person thinks, well, I want to work in HR within advanced manufacturing. They don't, but what they might know is actually these are skills that I really appreciate about myself. These are the kinds of working patterns that I would really enjoy. And then what we need to do is help them understand actually, and here are a cool couple of sectors in our local area. Did you know Sizewell's coming online? Did you know we're about to build a new reservoir? And marrying the two up. But I think we get it all the wrong way round. And actually what brings you joy is an absolutely cracking place to start. But then let's not get people siloed that we're going to be, oh my goodness, I don't think I'm ever going to see my state pension. We are going to be working for a long time. And you've got to make peace with a squiggly career.
We'll return to the Bennett School shortly. But now, keeping with the broader emphasis on employment, here's regional hotelier, host and entrepreneur Jez Cheetle with his Eastern Insight.
I'm Jez, and I'm the owner of the Thomas Paine Hotel in Thetford, and also the Attleborough Sherborne House. And I also do Prism Start, which gets ex-offenders, homeless, vulnerable and youngsters into work, and also various different fundraising and business awards events. So Prism Start, I've been working with the DWP for 15 to 20 years trying to get people into work. Why did I work with them? Because our industry has suffered big time for many, many years, even before COVID, of trying to get skilled staff. And I always used to want to get staff into our industry, to get more people into the industry, because we are a dying trade, but we're a growing trade as in food and hospitality. But actually in staffing and everything, it's very minimal in this country. I tell my story. 16 years of age, I left school, went on a YTS, and I ended up with Trust House Forte. I was with them for 22 years, and I became GM at the 5-star hotel in London at the end of it. So my story is that you don't need qualifications, a university degree. As long as you've got work ethics, you can get there. The Prism Start is all about that, and it originated from the DWP, going into Norwich Prison 14 years ago and finding talent sitting there, dying to want to work. And we've got a big problem in this country where our employers are starting to get work, but employees, we need to get them. And all these people in the prisons want to work. Some of them have been there for whatever reason, some of them have been there for reasons they shouldn't even be there. So they need our help, they need our support. And Prism Start, 14 years later, is quite thriving now. And I'm just actually rolling out Prism Start India as we speak, which is why I was there a couple of weeks ago. They recognise what we do, and because they saw the videos of us being presented in Parliament a few weeks ago, we're quite thriving, and we're very proud of it all.
Thank you, Jez. For more information, visit prismstart.org. The link you need is in the notes to this podcast. And if you want to share your Eastern Insight with the world, get in touch. Email me at podcast@easternpromise.org.uk. And now, let's return to Gwen, Charlotte, Suzanne and Burcu at the Bennett School of Public Policy. Let me turn to Gwen now. Form the Future. It does so much fantastic work across the board. But I just want you to tell us more about making those pathways clear for the people you meet and the people you see with all the fantastic work you do every day, every week.
I think what we aim to do is actually make it as easy as possible for employers who want to engage in this process to do so. And actually, we know that SMEs want to engage, and there are challenges around that. But actually, it can be as simple as just starting earlier. You don't have to start by hiring a young person if that's a challenge. They can still do their bit around raising awareness of the sorts of roles in those sectors, coming into schools, bringing those roles alive to younger children. We know that from as young as 7 or 8, children are having limiting beliefs about what sorts of roles are for them. And actually, if we can bring in people who can talk about the jobs and the opportunities and help to shed a bit of light on those pathways, actually that is still contributing to the overall picture of engagement and building that sort of talent pipeline. But it is often doing it in a way that can feel a bit more accessible for an SME. And that's really where working with an organisation like Form the Future can help, because we can help connect SMEs with the sorts of young people that they want to talk to, and share some of those hidden careers perhaps, and some of those really accessible local roles in these fabulous SMEs that we've got in the region. It can be as simple as just starting early, coming into school, giving a careers talk, offering work experience, incredibly valuable. It doesn't have to be jumping in with both feet and feeling like you have to hire a young person to make a difference. You can start earlier and simpler.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And actually, and this isn't like advertising what we do at EAGER, but we have our SMEs that when we go and do outreach work, maybe like that's been funded by the large developers, we always ask the SMEs if they want to come and help out. So that also means that they can keep that to their CSR commitments, which means that they can then apply for tenders. They can say that actually, yes, they are doing stuff in the community, which gives them a leg up as well, without them having to fund all those things. So you're right, those little points of contact, but making sure that they know that Form the Future and EAGER are available to people to go, right, you might not be able to fund things massively, but you can be part of it and then get the message out about what you do and what your industry does, and have those point of contacts with young people. I think it's an easy route for them. But you're right, it doesn't have to be this, you've got to employ a load of people and take it. There's small points of contact that you can have with industry and schools and colleges, but starting early doors and also taking the pressure off the young people about kind of like you touched upon, saying that kind of like what they think, their perception of what they think they're capable of. Like we did some work with trying to increase diversity in the energy sector, which is still not particularly diverse industry. And I was doing some stuff, it was making generators and then motors just with wires and magnets and stuff. And this young girl went, I didn't think I was any good at this sort of thing. And I'm like, what a strange way of putting it. I didn't think I was any good at this sort of thing. What, if you've not done it, what made you think that you weren't any good at it yet?
The reality is that for some of these larger infrastructure projects that we're talking about, they might not be hiring. We're talking about jobs that might not be available for, 5 or 10 years. You need to be talking to the kids that are in school now, coming out of primary, going into secondary, and layering on those experiences and familiarity and confidence, so that actually by the time they come out of education and are work ready, they can just walk into these projects. It's no good just talking to 18-year-olds or 21-year-olds if we're talking about jobs of the future.
So I think to Suzanne's earlier point that if we think the majority of our employers are small businesses, and in reality, if you're employing, say, up to 5-10 people, do you really know what you're going to be needing in 2 years, never mind 5 or 10. So I wonder sometimes if we overthink it a little bit. However, there are naturally some really big, amazing opportunities that we should celebrate, whether it's the development of Universal Studio, whether it is Sizewell, East-West Rail, and how that could change economic corridors and where people live, work and play. So I think those big infrastructure projects absolutely do need thought and consideration there. I think when we talk about AI, again, let's go back to to almost the basics. So I've spent a lot of my career talking to manufacturing engineering businesses, and we'd always make sure that an apprentice started on a traditional craft-based apprenticeship so that you understood the concepts. Yeah. And for me, I apply the same logic to AI, to have people with strong numeracy, literacy, critical thinking, the ability to problem solve. That is essential for AI or the deployment of whatever other tools and techniques they will see throughout, their career. A lot of our research points to the need still for what you might describe as relatively basic everyday digital skills. So let's not overlook what are fundamental basics, but it's not to say we are definitely seeing some changes in our trends. So in the second half of 2025, we saw a 133% uptick in the number of employers requesting AI as a skill. And then we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of, well, what is that, and do you understand what that is? But, it shows a direction of travel. There's also changes within the sectors. So if we look at the sectors who are recruiting for AI skills, ICT comes up number one. Second is professional, scientific and technical. And then third is manufacturing. So I think that's a real step change. But again, 5 years ago, I spent a lot of time talking about things like Industry 4.0. There can be phrases of the day that perhaps might feel a bit scary. And when you really think about it, it's, have I got people that can critically think, who are numerate, that are literate, and are we preparing them with those functional skills for the future?
Suzanne, what kind of opportunity do these big projects present?
Well, there's loads of opportunities for the supply chain. And of course, these big projects have to take on a part of their DCOs. They have to take on...
DCO, sorry.
The consent orders. So
Development consent orders, gotcha.
They have to employ local industry, which then has a positive knock-on effect. It's the supply chain, really, that's going to be employing. The developers will take on a few people, but it's the tier ones, really, that I suppose, for want of a better word, hold the power there. Pardon the pun, energy sector and that. On a national level, the massive projects that are happening in our region at the moment is making people actually take notice of our region. We are super unique in the energy sector, the fact that we contribute everything towards the energy mix. There isn't anywhere else like that in this country. And we say about, we're so sprawling, but saying that almost sometimes using that as a negative, but it's not, it's a positive. So I think these massive projects are finally, especially in light of what's happening in the world, it's everyone going, well, we need that energy security. They're going, well, hello, ladies and gents, sorry, to include everyone, that, the east of England, we can help contribute towards a solution to that. I get really excited about it, and we don't celebrate it enough. There are still loads of barriers in SME, like we've spoken about before, how tricky it is for SMEs to actually get their foot on the ladder sometimes, and that is where we do need to have a bit of united kind of collaboration there. But I'm not sure, even central government were quite aware of what was happening in our region.
No, I don't think they are.
And now that it's actually these big projects are shining a light, and that should have a knock-on effect for smaller industry that is the supply chain for it. So it's a good vehicle for central government and the rest of the country to recognise what is happening here.
Right, so, just to close then, I want to talk about success. And I want to know from everyone around this table, starting with Gwen, if we were to reconvene and re-record this in 5 years' time, this report from the Bennett School of Public Policy has really sparked a debate that's driven change that's successful. What does it look like to us, to the 5 years in the future us?
Well, in an ideal world, the report would have been actioned and implemented on with pace and urgency. I would be out of a job. I'd be back in an archaeological trench somewhere, trying to pursue that misspent youth, because no matter where you grow up in this region, the young people wouldn't feel that their locality determined what they thought was possible. That, whether a young person was in a coastal town or a fenland village or a market town, they would all have the same clarity of pathway and have had decent quality exposure to employers and have a sense of direction, irrespective of where they grew up, and certainly compared to those that had grown up near sort of major innovation centres. So that's what we'd like to see, really.
Charlotte?
So there's a current ambition to make sure employment's at 80%. In Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, that's currently at 78.9%. The challenge we've got is if we look at the number of people who would like to get themselves into a role, there are the people there, but it's about making sure then that they've been equipped with the right knowledge, experience, qualifications where appropriate to, be able to access those roles. But actually we've got a depression in the number of vacancies available. So my ask would be that we support our businesses to grow, because our businesses then grow, they create opportunity, they create vacancies, and those individuals who want to have those opportunity, whether it be a 16-year-old who is not in education, employment or training, that actually we're opening up that type of opportunity. But equally, if it's somebody who's perhaps mid-career or has stepped out of their career for whatever reason, that they have, again, really good insight as to the amazing opportunity in our region and a really easy, simple route. We hide the wiring. We have a simple route that they know what bit of the system to tap into that then opens that next door for them.
I love that expression, hide the wiring.
Well, like going on from what you said is the fact that actually those sorts of things that are happening in certain colleges, schools and colleges, are duplicated, that they're actually given the opportunities and confidence that young people feel confident enough to go, I'm going to give that a go, because I think that bit's missing. And so that's what I would like to see, that I get to connect with more young people going, just give it a go.
So, Burcu, lastly to you. You and Owen produced this fantastic and timely report that's come up with. So, and I wish we'd got time to go in, and we've already run well over, but I wish we got time to go into all these things today. What are those key points for you that will mean your report has triggered something wonderful in 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time, I think success would mean that young people in East Anglia can make a smoother transition into the labour market with better career guidance, stronger support to build the skills they need for a changing economy, because as we mentioned, AI, digital technologies and the green transition are already changing work. So success is not just about gaining more qualifications, it's about young people having the technical skills, confidence and adaptability to keep learning. So if more young people in East Anglia can clearly see the opportunities available to them, have equal access to them and feel they can build their future in the region rather than having to leave to find good opportunities, that would be a very meaningful sign of success.
My huge thanks to Gwen Bergius, Charlotte Horobin, Suzanne Allen and Burcu Sevde for that fascinating discussion. Thanks too to Burcu's co-author, Owen Garling. You can find a link to the report in the notes to this podcast. And now, here come my highly skilled action points.
Action points! Action points! Action points!
One. First up, and most importantly, read the report. Again, look in the notes to this podcast and you'll find the link you need. 2. There are many first-class institutions and organisations working hard to bridge the gap created by our region's skills mismatch. Form the Future, the East of England Energy Group and the Cambridgeshire Chamber of Commerce are but 3. The links to their websites are also in the show notes. Please do take a look and see how their work is delivering for young people and employers, and see how you can assist. 3. Know this. Dealing with the skills mismatch across our largely rural region is vital for the health of our economy and any notion of intergenerational fairness. Only collaboration and partnership can do this. Eastern Promise is looking to see those partnerships emerge across the urban and rural areas of the East of England, and we will support them as they come forward, as well as those already in existence. And that's this week's Educational Action Points. And that's all there is to hear on episode 173 of the Eastern Promise podcast. I have been Mike Rigby, and I will be so again next week, when, for your listening pleasure, I have assembled a scientific supergroup from the Norwich Research Park, the John Innes Centre, the Sainsbury Laboratory, the Earlham Institute, the Quadram Institute, Connected Innovation, and the University of East Anglia will be in discussion with me about the way the triple I of ideas, innovation and impact are communicated, whether that's to their peers around the world, to the public at large, whether in our region or across the UK, and to policymakers, from the Town Hall to Whitehall. But that's not all. We'll also be hearing about their forthcoming collaboration at the Royal Norfolk Show, when they'll be bringing innovation to the show-going masses. That's all to come next week, so until then, bye for now! To hear other episodes of the Eastern Promise podcast and to find out more about what we do, go to our website at easternpromise.org.uk. Eastern Promise is a Pudding Shed production in proud association with Mills and Reeve. Achieving more together.